Well guys, after all these years of struggling, it looks like Battlefield is back, and back in a big way. While many fans perhaps expected a multiplayer reveal that included a trailer, some curated gameplay, and pre-recorded developer insights, we instead got one of the biggest gaming launch events in recent history. With a massive multiplayer trailer to kick things off, this multifaceted live reveal event tackled everything from livestream developer presentations to the kickoff of a huge social campaign and a showcase of live gameplay with dozens of creators in attendance. While 2042 looked to hide its flaws, Battlefield 6 is looking to lay everything bare in front of as many people as possible and for once genuinely take player feedback on board. And while I believe a lot of fans turned in more so out of a sense of curiosity than anything else, I think it's fair to say we all left that event with true, genuine hype. So as we begin our journey towards Battlefield 6 while getting absolutely drowned in new information, here's my top 5 takeaways from the Battlefield 6 reveal. So be sure to drop a like and hit subscribe for all things Battlefield, and let's jump into it. Right off the bat, the biggest thing to call out is the scale and quality of what Battlefield 6 is going to deliver early in its lifecycle. Whether you want a single-player campaign, traditional multiplayer battle royale, or custom games with a server browser, Battlefield 6 has you covered. Post-Battlefield 2042, one of my biggest complaints is that Battlefield needed a third mode or extra pillar of gameplay, especially with a game of this scale, and thankfully will in fact be getting several pillars of gameplay with this new title. And while I think I'll be most interested in how Battlefield 6 seemingly revives Firestorm with their new Battle Royale, I gotta say a full-on map editor inside Portal was something I was convinced was never gonna happen, though was something that was desperately needed if this franchise's custom games were to ever get off the ground. But between a fully fledged single player, a new Battle Royale, returning traditional multiplayer, 9 maps, 40 weapons, and Portal with its new map editor, Battlefield 6 is shaping up to be a vast game with seemingly higher quality content than we've gotten in years, featuring enough diversity to allow everyone to enjoy the Battlefield experience any way they prefer. Next up, alongside this new massive content offering, seems to be a whole new mindset around what Battlefield is and how they're making it. In the past, it felt like DICE was dead set on creating their vision and then sharing it with the fans. However, whether it's the Battlefield Labs public alpha, live time balance changes like testing locked weapons, or the return of a modern age single-player story, this Battlefield is the fans' Battlefield. This is the game fans wanted, even if DICE or other studios aren't as interested in creating a game that could so blatantly be compared to things like Call of Duty with its modern setting and similar content offerings. However, like many publications have recently commented, Battlefield 6 is safe. It's what the fans want and finally looks to perfect and expand the Battlefield formula instead of reinventing it. It looks like Battlefield 4 has a narrative like Battlefield 3, movement like Battlefield 5, and the content offering to match Call of Duty, which will hopefully combine the best parts of why Battlefield is special while giving it the offerings and relevance to truly compete as a major franchise in this new age of content demand. My third major takeaway is that Battlefield is finally just trying to do things better. Instead of endlessly reinventing basic mechanics like I just mentioned, they're seemingly settling down with the classic identity of the franchise, a hyper-realized casual military shooter with more clear focus on classic core modes like Conquest, Breakthrough, and Rush. While the game is still certainly a casual, high-speed shooter, the introduction of things like body dragging, the return of more mature dialogue, and the sheer detail of the environments is really grounding the game like never before. While the latest version of Portal pushes the mode like Halo Reach did with Forge, instead of scrapping the entire idea like they would have normally done in the past. The game is in a way more fundamental than ever before, with a more clear focus on the key gameplay loop and modes, while at the same time allowing the developers to push their craft further than ever. The world feels richer, mechanics feel more human, destruction is much more natural, and core modes are getting more love, especially Portal. With more iconic locations like downtown Brooklyn, the war-torn streets of Cairo, and a battle royale that appears to be set in California, so far Battlefield 6 is simply feeling more tangible, more relatable, and much higher quality when everything comes together, opting for visually striking locations and mechanics, even if it means doing things they once said impossible. Perhaps one of the biggest compliments I can give this game is that yes, this is starting to look like a $400 million game that's taken years of development, and so far is delivering on fan feedback with what appears to be a super polished product. Now, my second to last takeaway is probably why this reveal's reception has been going so well, and that's how Battlefield Studios, with new oversight from Beatty and Zampella, is really changing how they interact with fans. And I think a big part of that is the fact that Battlefield's Twitter has been having a lot more positive interactions with fans than they have in the past, especially as they announce changes based on fan feedback, and the developers are finally keeping their mouths shut instead of stirring shit up with tweets talking about brutal expectations. With all these newfound resources and changes in leadership, it feels like Battlefield has a more cohesive strategy when it comes to community outreach and digital marketing, alongside this slick new social media campaign, a coordinated build-up to its reveal, Battlefield Labs, and a really slick live event to kick things off. Overall, the whole product feels more cohesive, and the way Battlefield Studios is interacting with the community has a lot less friction than DICE did with 2042, though I have a sneaking suspicion that it's because Battlefield 6 is a much better product that's sorta just marketing itself, while DICE had to dance around the disaster that was 2042 and lie their way to release. In fact, the change in vibes now that DICE has been essentially demoted is really quite refreshing. For as chill and seemingly open-minded as DICE said they weren't above arguing with fans and lying straight to consumers' faces about the state of 2042, while just a few years later we seem to be looking to get a game that they said was virtually impossible to deliver, though EA and the pandemic certainly had a lot to do with the state of the prior title. But finally, my biggest takeaway from the Battlefield 6 reveal and everything we've seen so far is that they finally understood things needed to change, and so far it looks like they've changed for the better. Bringing in new studios, moving DICE off to the side, and somehow getting Andrew Wilson to double down on this essentially dead franchise has been a shocking series of moves for such a notoriously stingy corporation. But like I've been harping on over the past year, Battlefield is one of a very few unique games left in the EA portfolio. While games like Madden and FIFA carry the company, franchises like Need for Speed, Medal of Honor, Battlefront, Mass Effect, and so on made EA the real juggernaut they used to be, but at this point, Battlefield is one of very, very few franchises the company has outside of sports, and I'm really excited to see that leadership is actually aware they need a broader portfolio. And in the year 2025, with rising console and game prices, that means these games need more content and more production than ever before. And like I said a few minutes ago about the content, it really feels like Battlefield doesn't want to play second fiddle anymore, and instead wants to offer fans a comparable sized experience to Call of Duty with content that parallels their formula, but with its own flavor, better mechanics, and more grounded gameplay on a much, much larger scale, and probably not because they want to, but perhaps because Battlefield needs to in order to stay relevant, and honestly, I'm here for it. But guys, what are your biggest takeaways from what we've seen so far? Drop those comments below and let me know. And for everything else Battlefield, stay tuned and subscribe, and as always, thank you guys for watching.